Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
As you all know how tightly the government and the Mahama administration is fighting tightly to end Galamsey in Ghana, the NPP on the other hand has seen nothing good out of his action. What they do rather is to attack him, thinking is the way to bring the NDC government down and to win power come 2028. Kwesi Pratt on the other hand, who we all know to be a man of his word and he says it as it is, has also joined the fight to rubbish the NPP and the minority as large. And we are bringing you the details here on PENDREAM TV. Join me dive more into it. Thank you.
I'll go to Uncle Kwesi. I'll come to you to start on the next topic because it's coming from your home. Then you can just address some of the issues that you've listened to. There's Kofi Agbakpo, who says Galamsey is bad, but the NDC and Ghanaians as a whole should be careful about what some people will be saying, doing in Galamsey problem. Same thing they did on Dumso, as if it was caused by Mahama and NDC lost power despite his good performance. Galamsey was with us for long, but in subsistence level, until excavators and foreigners ensued last 8 years. To stop Galamsey with force will cost huge sums of money and lives with temporal results only. It should be done with Galamseyers, locals, and all stakeholders targeting the mindset first. Then this one says, good morning. So now everyday Galamsey crisis, the chief also has on hand this matter because Galamseyers do it in their villages, but the chief never report them to the security. Thank you very much. There's also this one says, who are the people crying that they will not stop Galamsey today and tomorrow? What moral right do they have to criticize John Mahama for not doing enough to stop Galamsey? If they don't have any solution, they shouldn't disturb us. After all, they had as much as 8 years to solve the Galamsey menace, and we all saw their incompetence. Ni Mensa at spin test. There's Yao in Community 18. Says, okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Send that from Community 18. There's Prosper Kalenji of Kaswa, who says, good morning. Please, NPP have no moral right to start blaming the new 9 months old government. Not even up to 1 year yet. What are they saying? A problem that they came to power giving license to you said Chinese and their party apparatus to mine everywhere, polluting our water bodies, giving all minerals underground to Chinese and taking money from them. What are they talking about and what are they saying? 8 years problem to be solved in 9 months. Prosper sent that from Kaswa. Thank you, Prosper. And for those sending in comments, keep them coming through the WhatsApp platform and also send text messages if you can. Mr. Pratt?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd like to start from what this platform is and is not.
Okay.
Because our brother here has raised some issues, okay, and I think it's important to set the record straight once and for all. You know, for a very long time, Newsfile was the dominant political talk show for a period of time. And there was a certain level of degeneration, you know, in the content of that program. It became a platform for heckling and so on. So two persons decided to design an alternative to that program, and these two persons were Alhaji Bature, the late Alhaji Bature, and Alhaji ABA Fuseni. And their intention then was to create a platform which was balanced, which was fair to everybody, and so on. That was the clear intention. So Alhaji and Alhaji actually started on the Trust Towers in a Salam Down, hosted by a radio station which was then being managed by Kojo Mensah, okay, who had clear affiliation to the New Patriotic Party, and Michael Cook. So they started hosting the program. And so that station had some problems with licensing and all kinds of things and so on. And then I think it moved on temporarily to Radio Gov't. Okay. And then eventually moved on to Hot FM. It's gone through all kinds of stations, you understand. Now, it's important to make the point that some of the most prominent members of the New Patriotic Party were part of this effort of creating this new independent platform for political expression. And one of the key people involved in shaping Alhaji and Alhaji then was Mr. Paul Afoko. As a matter of fact, Mr. Paul Afoko became a major public figure, you know, giving commentary on national issues and so on through his involvement in shaping the Alhaji and Alhaji program. Paul Afoko. Wow. Philip Landon, who was a key communicator of the New Patriotic Party, was actually a regular participant in the Alhaji and Alhaji program. And so there are so many others. There's Mustafa, what is his name? Pardon?
Mustafa Hamid.
Mustafa Hamid, for example, was a regular participant and so on.
Yeah, at one point, Kennedy Japan too.
Kennedy Japan was regular on Alhaji and Alhaji. Not just that, you had stalwarts like Randy Abbey, who at the time was a self-confessed, you know, sympathizer of the New Patriotic Party. You understand? And so many of them, Alfred Obami and so on. Our point is that since Alhaji and Alhaji was introduced, it has become the biggest platform for political discussion in Ghana for more than 20 years. There's no year that doesn't won the biggest talk show, you know, accolade and so on. So I find it extremely strange when the effort is made to denigrate Alhaji and Alhaji and so on. I mean, even the composition of the panel today speaks volumes. Here is Beatrice, who is an NDC communicator. Here is somebody from the Movement for Change, which is clearly not NDC. Here am I, and here is a representative of the New Patriotic Party. In fact, in the last 2-3 years, some of the most regular participants have been NPP communicators. There was this former MP in Tema, you know, Ninoy, who has been a very key participant in this program. There is Dr. what is his name? From Adumaku Kisi, and so many of them. I mean, Collins, this young, brilliant NPP MP, Adumaku and so on. So where is this thing coming from? This suggesting that this is an NDC program, where is it coming from? In any case, even if it were an NDC program, what is wrong with it? So please, I don't want to hear that again. I mean, it's most unfortunate. People have no arguments to make. They cannot stand the independence that this platform provides and so on. If you come and you can't make your argument, that's your own headache. It doesn't make it an NDC program. So I want to make these points to start with. Now, with regards to the matter before us, I think that there's a huge problem. You understand? Because it's being reduced to a contest between legal and non-legal mining. I think that's a huge problem. You understand? So there's a suggestion that what is supposedly legal mining is safe, fine, and we can accommodate it and we can live with it and there's no problem. That's false. Because long before Galamsey became an issue, long before Galamsey became an issue, the Third World Network had established that the arsenic level in food produced in some of the mining areas, especially Obuasi, was 10 times more than World Health Organization standards. And we are talking about the early 1980s. And so this has been established. The arsenic level in food produced in mining areas was way above the permitted threshold by World Health Organization. So the problem was there. And if you go back to history, the history of mining and so on, you find many instances where multinational corporations engaged in mining had actually been fined for breaking the rules and so on. There was one case in which Newmont, and I mentioned Newmont, was engaged in mining in a certain area, and the fishes in the waters around that area started dying. And an investigation was constituted, and new malt had to be fined heavily for pollution and so on. So the pollution of our waters, the damage to agriculture and so on, is not something which only small-scale illegal miners do. Mining has become a major problem for our agriculture, it has become a major problem for our health, it has become a major problem for everything, for our sustenance as a people. And I think that what we should be discussing is what kind of mining should we engage in order to promote the health of our people. What kind of mining should we engage in order to ensure that the environment is not unnecessarily destroyed? What kind of mining should we engage in which can be deemed to be sustainable? And this has nothing to do with whether it is illegal or legal. What kind of substances should we allow in our mining? Should we still be allowing the injections of arsenic in mining? Should we be allowing mercury in mining? What should be the purpose of mining? Should mining be for private profit? Or mining should be an exercise that we engage in order to generate resources for national development? And national development here being defined as the collective prosperity of our people. These are the challenges. Clear. So when we reduce it to illegal versus non-legal mining and so on, we fudge the issues, and becomes then impossible to look for solutions to the problem which all of us are facing. Now I look at the dimensions of the problems that we are describing, and it is extremely worrying, and we've discussed it and raised it many times over. One, you look at the medical report. Ghana Medical Association has a report on so-called galamsey and so on. And they are reporting that in many of the mining areas, children are being born with defective organs. There are reports that children are being born actually without eyes. Not that they are born blind, they are being born without eyes. In some areas, children are being born without limbs. They are being born with defective organs like kidneys and so on. This is a reality. This is documented. There is medical evidence to support that, okay? Beyond that, I mean, there's a recent report, I think it's about 2 weeks old or so, which also suggests that food grown in these mining areas contain heavy metals. You know, very heavy metals. There's talk about kontomire and so on. And when I was growing up, oranges in Obuasi were considered to be the best oranges in the world. They were sweet, they were yellow, and so on. Today, the arsenic level in oranges produced in Obuasi make it poisonous to consume, and so on. So this is what we are talking about. Now, we are also talking about a situation where other economic activities are dying as a result of mining. And one of the best examples, for example, is cocoa, the cocoa industry. Over the last 2-3 years, cocoa production has fallen by more than 50%. Now, if you come to consider the claim, and it's a claim, that cocoa is the lifeblood of the Ghanaian economy, and production has gone down by as much as 50%, attributable to mining, then we are in serious trouble, and we need to look at mining. We need to have a review of mining. We need to have a second look at mining in order to introduce practices and so on which will make mining beneficial, to our people. Now, there is something else which is not factored in the discussion, and it's simply this. You see, gold is a non-renewable resource. there is gold embedded in our soils, no doubt. But you see, if you take the gold out, you cannot plant it again. You cannot replant gold. Once you take it out, it's gone and it's gone forever. It's a non-renewable resource. Now, even today, as we have so much of that resource embedded in our soils, look at the levels of poverty in the country, the levels of poverty in the country. Look at the bad roads we have. There are problems with access to education, access to health, and so on. We are in trouble. We've had to run to the IMF and the World Bank 18 times in order to look for solutions which we never get, and so on, with all of these resources embedded in our soils. Now, I want all of us to sit back and to think about 50 years from now. 50 years from now. When we have taken all of these non-renewable resources from our soil and deposited them in Europe and Far East and so on, what will be the fate of our grandchildren? This is something we have to be thinking about. And stop this sometimes weird, stupid competition between NBC and NPP, who is responsible, who said what and what. The future of Ghana, the future of our grandchildren and so on is at stake. It's a non-renewable resource. If you take it out of the ground, it's gone forever. You understand? And that should inform our thinking on this problem. Now, there's one person that I've quoted many times over the years. And who is that? It's Nochini. What did he say? Nochini says that gold is not a material which will rot. It has never rotted. If you don't have the means and the arrangements to exploit it for your benefit now, leave it in the soil. Don't touch it, leave it there. 200 years from now, you can go back and dig it up. You understand? So there's no compulsion to dig out this non-renewable material by all means or by any means now. It doesn't make sense so to do. So we should get our regulatory framework right, we should get our science right and so on. And when we do get these things right, the gold will be there, it will not be rotten. We can go for it and so on. It does make a lot of sense, to me, to take that approach. Now listen, sometimes when you listen to our politicians and political communicators, I think they unfortunately have no respect, for us. And that's why they can play this childish blame game. Master, the last elections, why? I heard, and I'm sure that all of us on this panel heard, NPP stalwarts mount the political platform and says, they are not fools. They are not going to tackle Galamsey and lose the elections. Am I lying? If I'm lying, tell me. The tapes are there, we can play them right now. That we are not fools. They are pushing us to go and fight Galamsey so we can lose our seats and lose elections and so on. They said that. Yes, it is true that there were elements of the NDC side who also said that, this problem can be solved in 3 months. In fact, somebody said a couple of weeks. All you have to do is to impose a state of emergency and the problem will be solved and so on. We heard all of this. Okay? But why? Is this the game we should be playing now? Does this game solve the problem? It doesn't. This blame game doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't in any way resolve this concrete problem, which is leading to deformation of children, which is leading to the deformation of the national economy, which is leading to a situation where in some areas pipe-borne water can no longer be produced for our people's consumption. So let us come together let us begin to think. And I am in agreement with the minority leader, Afenyo, when he says that, look, drop all this blame game and so on. Let's sit down. Let's have a discussion based on science. Let's have a discussion which is based on a genuine effort to address the problem, and let's find solutions and move forward, and stop who said what in the last election. And this is what Afenyo says, and I think he makes a lot of sense, when he talks like this. So, what is happening? Now, again, and I'm talking about statements which were made in the past, and I think that it should be statements which were made in the past and it should remain at that level. You understand? I'm only bringing these statements up to show the complete lack of sincerity on the part of major political actors. Why? There was one particular take which was so very instructive. This is a tape on which leaders of the New Patriotic Party were in a meeting, and I'm sure you know that tape, where actually one of them said, look, the party needs money to organize, and that Galamsey is one of the areas where we can make money to organize the party, so let us do it, and so on. You know about that tape. You understand? We know about Frimpong Boateng's report, the counter arguments and so on. We know about all of that and so on. So I'm saying that let's put that aside. Let's come back to the drawing board. Let us apply science. Let us apply our concrete knowledge of the problem and so on, and find a solution going forward. Now, look, no matter what he said, I have no reason whatsoever to believe that somebody like the current Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has no commitment to fighting against Galamsey, whatever it is. I mean, listen to him, see him in the field, doing things and so on. His commitment is very clear. It may not be achieving immediate results. It may take some time to achieve results, but the commitment is clearly there. And I have no doubt at all about it. Now, you see, recently, there's somebody on the minority, and so now you can help me you can remind me about him, who made the point that, what the Mahama administration is doing is exactly what they did. They've said that. So my goodness, for God's sake, if what the Mahama administration is doing is a repeat of what you did, why are you complaining? Why are you complaining? That is what they are telling us. They are telling us, they are not doing anything new. All the things that they are doing are the things that we did. So you did the same things. What moral authority do you have to criticize somebody for doing what you claim that you did? Yes, it is slow. The pace of reclamation of land is slow. The quality of water has not been restored completely yet. There are some signs of improvement, but it is not sufficient, and so on. These are facts. So what do we do? What do we do is to mobilize all the knowledge we have, to mobilize all the strengths we have, and so on, to see if it is possible to develop another paradigm for mining in Ghana. Then the president calls a meeting of those who are most critical of the issue. Say, why is he calling the meeting? It's for propaganda purposes. So what should he do? Ignore them? Not have a conversation with them? Where is that coming from? What is the problem? So now we should not even be engaging groups in the country which express concern about problems that confront all of us. What is this? I don't understand it. You understand? Now, one of the things that we are going to have to decide, going forward is simply the purpose of mining. What is the purpose of mining? Whatever mining we are engaged in, whether it's lithium mining, whether it's gold mining, diamond mining, or whatever, what is the purpose of mining? Because you can engage in mining only for the accumulation of private profits. You can engage in mining as an enterprise for the purposes of private accumulation. That's a model you can follow. And then you can engage in mining not for private accumulation, but as an enterprise designed to facilitate national development. That's another model. Which are the models we want? We're having all of these problems now because the central focus of mining is for private profit. Private accumulation of profit. You understand? And when mining is centered largely or only on the accumulation of private profit, you get the kinds of problems that we have today. So we need to have a new national orientation about mining. The purpose of mining. Why do we mine? And what is it that we can do in order to keep this orientation intact? That is our challenge. You understand? But if you reduce it to a propaganda contest between NPP and NDC, we are not getting anywhere. We need to rise above this propaganda contest between the NPP and the NDC. You see, Sana, when I came to the studio this morning, I noticed that the topic that we're discussing had been shifted in such a manner as to include a discussion of the prosecution of Chairman Wontumi. And you will remember that I raised immediate objections. Look, and we are happy that on this panel, British is here. She's a lawyer.
And also,
you understand? Pardon?
Gov't is also a lawyer.
And you are also a lawyer. Look, we should be very careful. We are getting to a stage where even matters which are before the courts are being publicly discussed, even sometimes by lawyers who make all manner of prejudicial statements which clearly are in violation of the rights of accused persons. And I think we should watch it. You understand? Allegations have been made against Chairman Wontumi. He's been arrested, he's been granted bail, his matter is before court. It is not for you and I to determine whether he's guilty or not. You understand? If you have to apply the rules, if you have to apply the proper framework for adjudication, for justice and so on, it is not for us to be making those determinations as to whether he will be convicted or not convicted and so on. In fact, under normal circumstances, those commentaries would amount to contempt of courts. You understand? So he's been arrested. As far as I'm concerned, there's no evidence that his rights have been violated. He's been given his full rights. He's represented by counsel. He's been given bail conditions. If he fulfills them, he will go home and so on. But ultimately, it's for the courts to decide whether he's guilty or not. It's for the courts to decide whether he has violated law or not violated law. It's not for me to come and sit on Alaji and pronounce judgment over him. You know, and I think we should avoid it. And this is not just about Chairman Wontumi. It's about all the cases before our courts. One of the other things that I think is important that we observe has to do with the fundamental principles underpinning the 1992 Constitution. And one of those fundamental principles underpinning the 1992 Constitution is the principle of separation of powers. You understand? That principle is an important principle. You cannot be upholding the values of constitutionalism if you act in ways which undermine this principle of separation of powers. And I think it's important for us all to be guided by these principles. It's important for all of us to make a conscious effort to ensure that citizens who, for good reason or for bad reason or for whatever reason, fall, how do they say it?
Fall foul
of the law, have every opportunity to defend themselves and to do so without us, veering into the political arena to make prejudicial statements which may not afford them the full opportunity to defend themselves. Look, I was very upset in the last 8 years or so about the trial of Dr. Stephen Ofudu. I mean, I saw aspects of the trial that I actually believed constituted a gross violation of his rights as a citizen, and so on. You understand? What happened to Dr. Ofudu should not happen to anybody else in the NPP or any other political party for that matter. We have to be fair to everybody. At the end of the day, if the Attorney General provides concrete evidence and the court is satisfied that me or any other person who has been accused has violated the law, let the law take its course. You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the Attorney General has a responsibility to present a watertight case to the court. On the basis of the evidence that the Attorney General's department is able to adduce and so on, the court will make a determination. Indeed, if the court does not make the right determination, if the court does not weigh the evidence properly and so on, there are other causes which can be pursued. That is why we have the right of appeal and so on. Let's do it. Let's do things properly. Let's do things clean. Let's make sure that citizens' rights are protected. Let's make sure that the interest of the state is protected and so on. I get very worried. And I said this maybe 2-3 years ago, and you would remember, and there was some discomfort when I said it. When I gave the Atamils Memorial Lecture, I raised a caution that there's a problem in any society which counts convictions of citizens as political gains. And it doesn't matter whether it's the NPP or the NDC. There's a problem with that kind of thinking. I'm happy so far with efforts which are being made by government to deal with this problem of mining, and I say problems of mining deliberately, because even some so-called legal mining has dangerous consequences for us and so on. So I'm so happy with some of the measures which have been put in place. I am also happy that citizens of this country continue to speak out about what they consider to be right and wrong about the measures which are being implemented. I'm happy about the president's engagement with so-called civil society organizations and the outcomes of that meeting. I'm happy that everybody is contributing to generating ideas for the resolution of this problem. Let us continue on that path, and hopefully we'll be able to design mining in Ghana in such a way as will be beneficial to the citizens in their collective, and we will then be able to approach mining not as an enterprise for private accumulation, but an enterprise for the advancement of our society. Finish.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You just join us in the Matter of All talk shows. Alaji and Alaji. We are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. We are live on Facebook, Pan-African Television. We are live on radio, on Radio Gold. A couple of your comments. Kobe, don't forget, I'll come back to you. There's Kofi Samuel who says, is it that the black man, I always disagree with this, but it's your comment. Isn't it that the black man is not able to manage his own affairs, hence allowing the Chinese to come and destroy our water bodies and lands? That's Kofi Simon. There are also says you better make restrictions on your land because everybody is trying to use raw materials and thereby killing your land by the way they are mining using chemicals to destroy the land. Don't let it be. Make restrictions, no chemical, no dumping in water. Make an office that can check what these other countries are doing at all time, not just checking once daily, so no one will do anything slick behind you. Nanaya Ochunibo Asamoah says, it seems nobody is holding those importing and mining chemicals into the country responsible too, as they are also making money and incognito. There's Suleiman Abdul Rahim, who says the seizure of the various forest reserves under the control of bandits is a sign that we are moving in the right direction. There's John Ananson, who says Oral Galamsey Cathedral PDS Kenofriata and Nabi said in Amtamloko Kobna Edu Buan etc. are all going to go free. It is a scam. As for the legal processes being complicated and dicey, is a rigmarole. That is coming. That's John, who said that. Hassan Suleiman says the fight against Galamsey is in full swing. Let no one throw dust into our eyes. That this government is doing nothing about Galamsey. What Naimos is doing is unprecedented. The difference between this government and Akufo-Addo's is night and day. There's also Kofi, who says, Uncle and my mentor Kwesi Pratt, what was the position of the Ochin and Bokwahini in the past 8 or 9 years under the watch of Akufo-Addo, who is also an achievement? There's Musa Yusuf Abatwa, who says it is deeply troubling that individuals who abuse power to devastate our forest reserves and contaminate vital water bodies are being praised by some party members. Galamsey is not a partisan issue. It is a national crime that destroys the environment and our future. Those responsible must be identified, held accountable, and prosecuted under our laws. We must protect our natural heritage and ensure that no one, regardless of position, is above the law. Thank you very much for sending in those comments. Let me end with Alhassan Hamdan in Nyohini South, who says those arguing Ghana can't fight Galamsey because most of the people depend on it for survival. You should stop. The government is not fighting Galamsey, but rather fighting illegal Galamsey. So should we allow people to continue to destroy our water bodies simply because they are earning their livelihoods through it? Then we should also allow armed robbers to continue to rob, because that's where they also end their livelihoods. If you're just joining us, says also then the majority of Ghanaians are now enjoying the good work of His Excellency John Mahama. Galamsey seems to be training, but after the CSO's meeting with the president, even they had not to crack. That's the president of GJA expressed surprise at the good work the government is doing to tackle the issue. The city is stable. Gradually we are getting there for the betterment of all Ghanaians. He sent that from Spin Test. There's Prince Henry Koforidua, who says Galamsey fight should be collective, devoid of politics. I support the call that chiefs must be proactive in the fight against Galamsey. Also, our various MMDCs must play a critical role in the fight against Galamsey. I would not be surprised to see President Mahama sacking some MMDCs in the coming month should they fail to help fight against Galamsey. The situation we find ourselves in now demand collective support from all, so we can solve the menace of Galamsey for ourselves and our future leaders. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you. Yes, Jonas, who says, Senna, yes, Kwesi Pratt was right about how Alhaji and Alhaji came about. I started listening to Alhaji and Alhaji from day one. It started at Vibe FM at the Trust Hours. It was balanced with the political parties involved. Now it was the same Alhaji and Alhaji. When Kennedy Japan had a problem with Kwesi Pratt, we nearly turned to fisticuffs between the two. When Kwesi Pratt talked about going to the Hotel Diwawa to take just one shot. And Ken asked Kwesi if he's a man, he should try it. I remember that vividly. Some of us left our homes and got to the hotel at exactly 3:30 at dawn to support Kwesi Pratt. Because according to Ken, he's coming with tags to fight Kwesi. So Kwesi was right. Okay, says like Kevin Taylor always said, go and open your own if you have problem listening to him. That's Jonas who sent that. Good morning to our friend Michael Attȧck. Mr. Pratt.
Well, look, I think it hasn't dawned on people yet, even though the facts are there in our face. The new patriotic party you have today is not the new patriotic party even in early 2024. It's a substantially different political party. You understand? Now, why do I say this? You have a substantial break away from that party. the movement for change has broken away. It hasn't gone back. Indeed, from all that I'm hearing, within the next 2 weeks, it will be a fully registered political party, and it's coming out of the New Patriotic Party. That's a fact. You understand? Not just that, as we speak, there are other prominent persons in the party who are preparing to launch another political party. You understand? So, at least you're expecting 3 parties emerging out of the New Patriotic Party. That's a fact. And that should be a source of worry for anybody who is a member of the party, for anybody who is seeing that party as a machine for election. It is splinting. You understand what I'm saying? That's clear. Now, one would have expected that given these circumstances, there would have been a lot of effort, on the reconstruction of the political party, its rebranding and so on. You don't see that. All you hear is about who is likely to become the flag bearer of the party and so on. Flag bearer of what party? A broken party? What impact can you make? What impact can be made with this broken party in the next elections and beyond and so on? So I think that some effort has to go into thinking about how to reshape the party, how to position it and so on. There were some noises about bringing back all the old folks who had left. There was reference to Dr. Nyahota Makro and so on. At the same time, you hear them saying that they don't want those people back. I mean, anytime Attȧck Kennedy, for example, makes a statement, they say, who is Attȧck Kennedy? He's no longer a member of the party, and so on. So you don't see that genuine attempt to encourage people to come back to the party. I mean, what you see is a deliberate effort to drive people away from the party and so on. Now, there is something that perhaps is not obvious, but it should have been obvious. And it's simply this. Look, the first time the Dankwa Buzia tradition, that's how they call themselves, Dankwa Buzia Domo tradition, won free and fair elections in this country was in 2000. Check the records. In 1969, they had to ban the CPP. You understand? Even other political parties that came up that looked like the CPP were banned, like the People's Popular Party led by Dr. Lutrot and so on, to win that 1969 election. Since then, they won no election. The only election which they won was in 2000 with President Kufuor as the candidate. Now listen to me very carefully. President Kufuor won that election because he went out of his way to cultivate other traditions. President Kufuor deliberately built what was then called the Great Alliance in order to be able to win that election. Not just that, President Kufuor erected billboards across the country of himself and Kwame Nkrumah. Check, go back and check. His billboards had Kwame Nkrumah on his billboards and so on. Okay? So he presented as some kind of a united front. He built bridges with other political traditions and so on to be able to win that election. Okay? Now you take the victory of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the 2016 elections. And Senna, they may want to admit it or dismiss it. The fact is that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, even without saying it, was seen as a breach. Because there's so many people who said, but we know him, he's a member of the CPP. He was a member of the CPP. And that's a fact. Okay? So a lot of people saw him as a bridge. They didn't see him as a typical Dankwa Buzia Dumbo person and so on. They saw him as somebody who belonged to the radical wing of the Convention People's Party. Indeed, he belonged to the left wing of the Convention People's Party. And his own sister, Marigold, there's actually a video of the sister talking about how after the 1966 coup, Nana-Addo ran back home and had to be hidden because he was on the list of persons to be arrested and so on. You understand? So it surprised a lot of people when he became president and he started this anti-Nkrumah rhetoric and so on, given the fact that he had benefited from his association with the Convention People's Party. And this is a fact. You understand? Now, so the point I'm making simply is that the NPP has never won elections on its own strength. And that at all material times, you can argue that it won on the basis of a presentation of itself as a broad front and so on. Okay. Now, the party is preparing to go into another election. It is fractured internally. There are 3 parties emerging out of 1. It has lost an election, and I believe largely because it was too partisan. It presented a narrow view of politics. All these anti-Nkrumah attacks by Napo and so on killed that party. You understand? So you factor in the fact that they've lost that broad CPP constituency is lost, which helps them to win elections is lost. And then the fact that they are splintered, into 3 different political parties, or they're likely to be splintered into 3 different political parties. And you can see that the future is very, very, very bleak for the party. But it doesn't appear that they see the problem. So they are continuing, as usual, they are continuing dreaming about the strength they don't have, and so on. And it is interesting for me, watching this contest for primaries and so on. There's only one of the candidates, who is appreciating all the things that I'm talking about now. And it's Kennedy Japan. Kennedy Japan is the only one who sees that the NPP on its own is not going to make any headway. And that is why Kennedy Japan has started talking about wanting to emulate Nkrumah. I'm sure you are aware that he's been talking about how to emulate Nkrumah, how to work with other political forces and so on. He's the only one who sees this problem and is making some noises, is doing something about repairing this damage that the New Patriotic Party, appears to be suffering. But beyond that is also the perception. Is it just a perception? I don't think it's just a perception, it's also reality. About the party machinery itself doing everything possible to make sure that there's only one outcome of this contest. And that's clear. Look, they went to file their papers and so on. There were 5 candidates who filed their papers. It was only Dr. Bawumia whose filing process was live streamed on the party's official channels. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? This whole thing is skewed, or some people are trying to skew it against other contestants. And the consequences can be very disastrous. And as my brother here said, if these matters are not taken on board, they will win primaries. One person may be the one they prefer, the party machinery prefers, so will win. But there will be no opportunity for reconciliation and rebuilding of that party. That's a total disaster. You understand? And then, Senna, I think it's about time that politicians woke up to the fact that their relevance is only to the extent that their candidature can lead to the resolution of the concrete problems that confront our people. Why? People don't vote for candidates because they are tall or because they are handsome or because, you know, they vote for them because they have concerns about their lives. They have problems that they want solutions to. All of this contest. Have you ever heard any of those candidates, and again, somehow strangely, it's only Kennedy Japan who is talking about these things. Have you ever heard any of them talking about how to revamp the cocoa industry? Have you? Have you heard any of them talking about that? Have you heard any of them talking about the state of national infrastructure and so on? Have you heard any of them talking concretely about the unemployment situation in our country and so on? Unfortunately, it appears that the only one I'm hearing is Kennedy Japan again. You know, but you see, be that as it may, I have followed the tiff between Gabi Otredaku and largely the members of parliament or the parliamentary caucus of the NPP in Ashanti region. And I've followed it. And I've asked myself a few questions. What is Gabi saying which is not true? Somebody should tell me what Gabi is saying which is not true. Gabi is saying that if you have such a crucial election to contest, and you go apologizing and nobody knows what you are apologizing about and so on, it's a problem, and isn't it a problem? Those of them in that party who are apologizing, do you know what they are apologizing for? They say they are sorry, they didn't do well and so on. Why didn't they do well? They can't tell us. So all this apology, what is it about? It appears to be some contrived, messaging. And it doesn't help anybody in national politics. Why? Gabi is saying, what are you apologizing for? And that if you make these apologies and nobody understands what the apology is about and so on, in the final analysis, these apologies will come to harm you. Is that not the true statement? Master, I've finished.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe a few comments just to conclude. This one is from Alaji Hamza and Big Fan, who says, good morning, my brother. Let's stop beating around the bush and call a spade a spade. We're told by the former Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Abu Jinapor, the Mineral Commission and the Forestry Commission told us that Akuntamani had no license to operate in our forest reserves. So no one should sit down and say it is a witch hunt. If there are witches out there, they should be hunted. Jamawun to me and his Akuntamani has done a lot of destruction to our water bodies and forest reserves, and for that matter, he should be made to pay. That's Hamza who sent that from.
Thank you for watching. If you have really enjoyed this episode and like what Kwesi Pratt has said, please do drop your comment below. Like and also share to other members to watch as well. Don't forget to subscribe as well to keep you updated here on PENDREAM TV. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep engaged. Thank you.
Denis kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.